At this point, we have talked about a couple scenarios. We talked about what to do if the student is in red, meaning they're lacking the essential skills required to complete the assignment. We talked about our students in yellow and how critical it is for them to have dynamic tasks that will give instant feedback and scaffolded support. Now we're going to talk about our students in green. So our students in green are the students that can complete the math independently. You can give them a problem from the textbook or worksheet, whatever it is that they're doing, and they are able to complete the task by themselves. If this is the case, if we have our students in green, they can already do the math, we have to consider, all right, well, will this homework assignment deepen my students' love of math? Now, you got to be real here. We have to really, really think about, is this task going to motivate, inspire, encourage my students and help them see the beauty of mathematics? If the answer is no, if the task is not going to deepen the student's love of math, it's not an appropriate task. We would have to consider something else. Now, this is really, really important because our students in green here can already do the math. We're not talking about the yellow students that need to build procedural fluency. We're talking about the green students who have procedural fluency, who are ready to move on. Now, that's what happens here, right? So you have those students that they're in green, and maybe the whole class is not in green, and so they're given that, worksheet or textbook assignment to do for homework, but they already know how to do it. That's when we have frustration because students may feel like their time is being wasted. They also will just maybe begin to compare math, as in math is just answering questions, and we don't want that. We know that math is so much more than a textbook. And in this stage here, if we have our green students and we're constantly giving our green students tasks that are not deepening the love of math, it's going to unfortunately turn them away from math, and in doing so, turn away from STEM careers, right? We need to make sure that our students in green are going to have a task with a higher ceiling. Remember, we're just in the planning stages here for UDL. So if you know you have a student in green and that is not an appropriate task, we'll change it. Change something with the project. Maybe add something to it or create a new representation that's going to be unique in some sort of way and challenge that student in green instead of making them feel like they're just doing random problems from a textbook. We do not want to hold our green learners back. This is really, really important. If our students can do the math and the task is not going to deepen the love of math, we don't want their learning to stop there. We want to continue our green students' learning. And the only way we're going to do that is if we can change that task, adapt it somehow so that it will move to that next part of deepening the students' love of math. So let's say that the task does deepen the student's love of math. Is that everything? Well, if it deepens the love of math, that's great. But there's things that we need to consider. And the first part is, does the task offer student choice? Student choice is so very important. And this is where universal design for learning comes in. With this part right here, the offering student choice, what I'm referring to is how you are presenting the information to the students. We want to make sure that we're presenting the information with multiple representations and multiple levels of engagement so that all learners can access the content and be engaged in the rich learning experience. We want to make sure that we're offering students choice so they can complete an assignment that they're passionate about, that they're interested in, that they see the value in. That's what we want. Once again, we do not want to hold our green learners back. So we would want to consider um, how we can take that assignment and how we can offer different choices as to how the assignment can be completed. Now, is student choice everything? And for that, I would say no. Student choice is not everything. If it does give student choice, that's great, but then you also want to consider flexible action and expression. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. When I first started learning about UDL, I really didn't understand flexible action and expression. Like I would totally look at Google, right? Look at the images and read the captions and then go back to the articles and read about flexible action and expression, but I didn't see the connection to math. I didn't see how a math teacher would offer flexible action and expression. And here's what I come to. Okay, so here's kind of the realization that I've made. Flexible action and expression is how you are going to receive the information from your students. It's how the students are going to show you what they know or show you what they've learned. So, flexible action and expression, we have to consider it as the way that we're going to get information back from the students. Now, maybe how does that work in math? Well, maybe that means we have a Desmos lesson with 15 slides and we're offering the student choice to do the 10 slides that they prefer. Now, there's so much beauty in this strategy because not only can students choose, let's say, the representation they want out of those 15 slides, they can also choose, like, we could level those 15 slides, right? So our green learners may want to complete the more advanced slides, and maybe our learners that are just developing their skills would skip those last five. But when we're offering flexible action and expression, when we are really focusing on what the student learned, we really want to know that. If you really want to know if the students met your goal, you have to be flexible with how they show they've learned it, right? So flexible action and expression is basically just a way you can open your tasks and make it more diverse so that the students can choose how to best show you what they've learned or what they know. Now, if the task does not offer flexible action and expression, that would mean that everyone is doing the same assignment. Now, if that's the case, if everyone's working on the same task, well, I'm sorry, I should step back for a minute. We know that that happens in math. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I'm saying here, and if it's always the same. Now, we do need to be able to be flexible, right? We need to differentiate. So what I'm talking about here is sometimes it's really important to offer that choice of how to show me what they know. But is it everything? Does everything have to have multiple representations, multiple choices? Well, no. You don't necessarily have to make sure every task does, but it is really important. If the answer is no, if the task does not offer flexible action and expression, you really have to consider if it's the best use of your students' time. Now, here's what I mean by that. Our students in green already know how to do the math. So if we know, based on evidence, that they can complete the task, we don't need to be sending them home a worksheet or whatever it is to do more problems, right? We really would want to consider, okay, this isn't going to be offering a flexible action and expression. Is this really the best use of my students' time? And here's what I mean by that. Our students have really, really difficult lives outside of class. Maybe when they go home, they have to help their parents work. Maybe when they go home, they have to watch their siblings or their cousins, or even help their siblings and cousins with their work, right? Our students have difficult lives after school, or maybe they just need a break. Maybe they worked all day at school and they just need a break. We have to consider, if my student in green can already complete the assignment, is this the best use of my students' time? And if you really think hard about it and you think, yeah, this is a good task, it's doesn't have flexible action expression, but I think that my students are really going to benefit from it, then yeah, go for it. But if you're thinking about it and there's no flexible action expression, it's not really the best use of students' time. You could foresee that situation would cause maybe math to seem boring or useless to the students. That's when you'd want to avoid it. You need to stop. You need to, thinking UDL, we need to plan ahead. At this point, that task would not be appropriate for that student in green.